What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Tears Take. I am recapping The Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 19, Reunion Part 1. Woo, it's been a long season, y'all. But anyways, I'm excited to dive in. But anyways, if you're new here, I recap Housewives on a weekly basis. So if you are here for some fun, some shade, some commentary, please join the party. Please go ahead, like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts below. That's what really makes it fun because sometimes I'm like, am I tripping? Am I alone in this? And sometimes I am. So feel free to just let me know your thoughts along the way. And I'm excited to have you here with me. But let's go ahead and dive in. So, with every reunion, we have our reunion looks. I'm going to just cut to the chase. Katie looks the best. Katie and Gina look the best. And it's weird because I know at some point during the reunion, Gina's like, I'm so uncomfortable. And I'm like, girl, you actually look good. Like, maybe she's uncomfortable looking good, but girl, you look good for once. um, yeah, I really liked her look. I didn't like her nail polish. I didn't like Gina's nail polish. And then Katie looked great as well. Everyone else looked really basic to me. And we know Emily had a lot going on, but anyways, those are my thoughts on the looks. I'm not even going to go by one because they all looked really basic and really similar. So no need to just go through the list there. The seating. The reunion seating was weird to me because I understand Tamra is, the longest reigning housewife on the show. I understand that she is in charge of the girls and everyone's afraid of her. I understand she's pretty much like the face of the show at the moment. I get it. So I know that's why she is first chair. But when someone threatens to quit multiple times in the season, sometimes you got to teach them a lesson. And she should not have had first chair, in my opinion. And then Katie, who drove so much of the conflict and had everyone's panties up in a bunch, like for most of the season, they had her at the end, and they didn't give her a finale title card. So I was like, bravo. Yeah, we see each other. So I didn't really like that. Katie should have been moved up. Tamra should have been knocked down a peg because at the end of the day, you are not above the program, honey. So Tamra should have been knocked down a peg. Katie should have been moved up. I'm not sure why Jen was in first chair. I don't know. The seating was a mess. Anyways, let me know your thoughts below on the fashions, the seating. I do want to hear from you. Okay, so let's get started. I did watch the live version, and then I also watched the extended Peacock version. So some of the things that I say are going to be from that Peacock version. If you're like, wait, I don't remember that, it's because it's from the extended part. But don't worry, child, you didn't miss that much if you didn't see it. That's what you have me for, to just fill you in. Okay. So, we get kind of like our usual reunion, like backstage glamour shots. Once again, Tamara, why are your boobs out? It was a very brief moment. And I know it's production's, prerogative to include it. But she's just there at one point just with like pasties. And I'm like, I'm so sick of this woman. It's every season. She's just so thirsty. Anyways, I'm like, okay. So whatever. We don't spend a lot of time backstage though. So that means there must have been a lot of material to cover, which I can appreciate. So the backstage shots were very quick. And then we actually see the women get on stage. Andy does his usual introductions. So as he's going around, he's just kind of making his like little small talk. He's like, oh, Emily, you look great. Did you lose more weight? She said she's back to working out every day. Gina says her real estate business is doing well. Katie says she has a lot of time to make up for it because they iced her out half the season. She didn't say that part, but that's why. She says she has a lot of time to make up for, and she is hoping to say things that she didn't get a chance to say during the season. And Tamra says that she had yet another boob job. I told y'all, boob job, facelift, they alternate every year. Girl, leave yourself alone so you don't end up like looking crazy. Tamra said she won't be quitting today. And she said it like as if it was something cute. And then Heather's like, oh, ha, 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 the day is early. Like, the day is young. And I'm like, that's cute. That's funny. Okay. Can you imagine if Katie quit, they would have been like, okay, girl, let's pack up your stuff. We go like what? Anyways. And then Tamra says, I'm in better spirits because Teddy's better. And I'm like, why are we talking about Teddy Mellencamp 2 minutes into the reunion? Good Lord. So, and then she mentions her later. And I'm like, Tamra, seriously, I said this on Blue Sky. I seriously hope Teddy's getting a kickback because she was literally your storyline. And I hope you broke her off a nice bit of that check because I've never seen in my life, like, Kyle hasn't even used her as a storyline. And at one point, she was like living with Kyle. Like, can we be all the way for real right now? Anyway, so then Andy asks Tamra about Alexis's wedding because, we had seen online Alexis actually got married to John Jansen. And Tamra says, oh, I feel weird talking about the wedding in front of Shannon. And I'm like, when have you ever considered Shannon's feelings? When has that been a thing? I haven't seen that in a very long time. But she said it was a beautiful wedding. And Shannon was like, don't worry about it. I thought it looked great as well. On the Peacock version, they talked about, Shannon zooming in on the pictures to see if John was wearing the Ferragamo shoes that Shannon got for her. I was like, okay, like, enough. Okay. He's married. He enough. Okay. Enough. So anyway, they talk about Jen getting disinvited from the wedding and then reinvited. Jen gives her version of the story of what happened, but then we also hear Alexis's version on her recaps that she does on Carlos King's channel. I believe Alexis. Jen, I used to like you, Jen, but you have a little bit of a memory problem, and I see that you have a little problem with the truth at sometimes. So I believe Alexis's story. So if you want that story, go check out her OC recaps that she does with Carlos King. Okay. So then Andy asked Tamra about intentions, and she said that she's trying not to be so reactive. And Andy says, like, yeah, given that you've been in therapy, mind you, she's been in therapy over a year now, right? And Andy said, yeah, like, since you've been in therapy this whole time, I thought we were going to see something a little bit different this season. I thought you would be a little bit calmer. And Tamara was like, oh, you didn't think I was calmer this season? Well, she didn't say it like that. She tried to say it in her, like, calm voice. She was like, you didn't think I was calm this season? And Andy's like, I didn't. Then they show a montage of Tamara crashing out, acting like a petulant child, middle fingers, F you, screaming, like acting a hot mess and not like the grandmother that she is. And so they do a montage of that, her screaming like a banshee. Here goes Gina trying to like come to her defense. I'm like, girl, ugh. Gina's like, oh, well, we can't expect her to change overnight, and we can't, like, girl, shut up. And then Jen actually was trying to hold Tamra accountable and was just like, yeah, but when you're an adult and you want to do better, you just do better, period. It shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't take a year. It shouldn't, girl, every season, I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to figure out why I'm so angry. I'm trying to girl, we, like, come on. So I liked that Jen said that. So then Tamra uses Teddy again as the excuse. Well, I was in therapy, but things got derailed because Teddy got sick. I was like, they talk more about Teddy on OC than they have ever talked about her on Beverly Hills. Like, let's clock that. Girl, no one cares. I love and light to Teddy. I wish her the health and happiness. I want her to be healthy for her kids. Period. But in like Bravo land, no one cares. Stop. Seriously. Okay. So then Shannon says, Shannon had a really tough season, I believe, last season. And she's like, you didn't show me the grace that you're asking people to show you right now. And, instead of Tamra, like, either apologizing or saying something meaningful. She's like, oh, well, I didn't ask for grace. And I'm like, yeah, you did. Like, you threw it in everyone's face every time someone tried to hold you accountable. It's like, I'm going through a lot. Like, you threw it in their face, which is basically saying you're not giving me any grace. You're not showing me any compassion. I can't stand the way she cries, y'all. Like, it's so like, I don't know. It's like something about it. I'm just like, oh, shut up. Anyway. So in saying that, hey, you didn't show me the grace that you wanted others to show you, it was really frustrating. And then Tamra says, "Yeah, we saw your frustration all season." And then Shannon calls her Tamra grudge, and the cast was like, "Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one." It was funny. And then Andy asked Tamra about wanting Vicky back next season, and they made up recently for the 1000th time. And Emily asked if it's a strategy. Shannon says it seems manipulative. Basically, you've been kind of alienating yourself, and um, now that you're kind of almost on this island by yourself, that's when you reached out to Katie conveniently, and now you're making up with Vicky and like wanting her to come back. And hey, there might be some strategy behind it. For sure, I think two things can be true. I think, yes, it would be helpful to have OG and the OC back on your side of things, and she probably has more fun with Vicky than all of these girls. And then two, she probably just misses her. They are a good time together. They are good, camera friends. Will this makeup last forever? No. The way that they have hurt each other and the way that they have like cut deep with each other, I don't think you can ever be like truly, truly, truly real friends. But TV friends, sure. So yeah, we'll see. And I think they should bring Vicky back. They should bring Vicky back in some capacity. I don't know if she needs to be full time, but she 100% needs to be on that 20th season in some capacity. Even though it's not her show, despite what she thinks, it's not her show, but it's definitely has succeeded for a very long time because of her, largely due to her contributions. We'll say that. So Andy brings up that Alexis said on a podcast, I think it was Carlos's again, saying that Shannon was trying to ice Tamra out. And the reason that she was able to spot it is because Shannon tried to do the same thing to Alexis. And of course, Shannon denies it. She's like, oh, I don't even plan my outfits. I don't even know what I'm doing. And I'm like, Shannon, it's clear that Real Housewives of Orange County is like your entire life, is your entire world. So I 100% believe that you are way more calculated than you laid on. Were you trying to like strategize and ice out Tamra? I don't know. I don't personally agree with it. I think you wanted more people to be on your side than hers. Did you want to like try to kick her off the show? I hope you know better than that. I hope I hope like you don't have that power to get Tamra off the show. But I think for sure it's always going to be in the back of someone's mind filming, hey, I don't like so and so, they really hurt me, so if I have more people on my side, it's going to be better for me. I don't think that's like a weird thing to kind of like keep in your head. And all of this like planning and scheming takes me back to was it Kelly Dodd's first season? It might have been Kelly Dodd's first or second season when Shannon was like trying to set her up constantly, trying to bring people like from her past and trying to call Kelly out for like cheating on her husband or cheating with a married man or something to that effect. And it was so contrived. Like, oh, wait, what were you saying? I didn't hear. Can you tell me again? Like, and then also trying to get her drunk in the Ireland trip. So like, Shannon, you do a lot of calculated ish. So let's not act like, things just happen around you, especially on the show, girl. Like I don't think you have much going on outside of the show. So I think you spend a lot of time thinking about it and a lot of time planning your next move around it. Okay, so on the topic of icing people out, Katie says that Shannon wanted Gretchen to take Katie's spot. So she's basically like, yeah, like you do have that behavior because you try to get me off the show. So Katie claims that Shannon called an executive producer and said, I feel unsafe with Katie. Gretchen should take her spot. Gretchen should have her orange. And Katie said that Jen told her this story. And of course, Jen denies it because, Jen is like Team Shannon these days. And Alex must have been on set because Andy heard in his ear, in his earbud, he said, oh, Alex is denying that he ever said that, or Alex is denying that he ever talked to Shannon about that. So I'm like, okay, well, was there another form of communication? Was there someone else involved? They never like said that the conversation never happened, but whatever. So then Andy asked Katie about the evolution of her friendship with Tamra. And Katie says, it's been nice to be seen and feel like she had someone, seeing her side. And here goes Emily, because she is annoying, saying that, their friendship doesn't make sense. At the Persian New Year party, Tamra was saying that Katie's dead to her. And then Heather chimes in, like, yeah, Tamra said that, like, she should sue Katie. And, we have unseen footage from that event where, yeah, both of those things did happen. But it's like, people can move on. People, like, Tamra blows up and then forgives or asks for forgiveness, and everyone's fine. But with Katie, it's just so unheard of that, like, people can move on. Like, shut up. So Katie was like, yeah, that happened, and we moved on from it. So thank you. Okay. So then Andy brings up the scene where Heather and Emily said that they don't really trust Tamra. They trust her the least out of everyone in the group. And he asked, like, how can you be friends with someone when you can't even share your full selves? Like, you don't trust them, so how can you call each other friends? And Heather says, they're friends, but the reason why she said she didn't trust her is just like the unpredictability of Tamra's like temperament and her actions. And Tamra says, I hear you, like in her best like therapy voice. I hear you. We're going to have a deeper conversation. And Emily inserts herself. She's like, well, I said it too. And I'm like, girl, no one cares about you. She's like, I said I didn't trust you too. And it's because that Emily said her reason for not trusting Tamra is because she witnessed how Tamra treated Shannon after years of being best friends. You just had so much venom and like and said so many terrible things about her. And then Shannon says, the only thing I said about you was that you had an ego. Like, you just have all these like little whispers in your ear, like making you think otherwise. I didn't say anything beyond that. And then Tamra said to Shannon, no, you're the only one with little whispers in your ears. And it reminded me of Shannon's first season when I think it was Tamra said that Shannon had like little green Martians like talking to her in her head. Basically saying she's crazy. So Andy asked Tamra, why are you surprised that people don't trust you when you do spill other people's secrets and do things like that make them not trust you? And Tamra was like, well, can you give me an example? And Shannon speaks up saying, my dad, you spoke about something really sensitive. And Tamra says, Shannon, like, season, I think 15, I forget what season it was. I think it was 15. But she said, Shannon, like in a past season, you had a conversation on camera with Bronwyn where you said that you had alcoholism in your immediate family. And the footage shows that Shannon said we had alcoholism in my family. She didn't say immediate. So I will give Shannon that point. But I was like, okay, Tamra, like, you must have had somebody, send you that little reminder. But I'm here for it because when you come into a reunion, you need to have your receipts and you need to have what you're going to say, have an idea of what people are going to say to you so that you can have some sort of rebuttal. So I do appreciate that she was able to say, oh yeah, it was season 15. I'm looking at my notes. So I do appreciate where she was like, no, here's the season, here's the scene. And this is what happened. So it's not a great shock that I repeated it now. And she mentions the nasty comment that Tamra said under her breath, where she was basically like, Shannon's mad that this makes her look bad. She doesn't really care about her dad. And so Shannon's like in tears and she's like, I had to tell my dad about this. And he's said I'm the only reason why he's living. And it was like a whole big thing. And I'm like, okay, girl. So in regards to the comment that Tamra made, under her breath, Tamra says, well, yeah, like I was pissed off. I was mad. And Shannon's like, that's what you always say. You can't just fly off the handle, say what you want, say these nasty things just because you're mad. And you can't use being mad as an excuse to be a terrible person. And Tamra eventually apologizes and says it wasn't her place. So I'm like, okay, we're done with this. So then we get to Katie's package and we have just basically her offending the whole cast. It's Katie talking to Emily's ex nanny, telling Kiki Monique about the Asian designer comment that Gina made, recording Shannon's breakdown. And I hope they get into the reunion. I hope they get into this because it's not cool that there are now multiple incidents of Shannon like berating crew and treating behind the scenes people terribly. I'm just wondering why she keeps getting rewarded. She was in that stupid dog commercial. I'm just confused why Shannon keeps going unscathed, having these like meltdowns. It's reminding me of Julia from Miami. Why season after season we keep hearing these terrible things about her, and it's just like, like never happened. Anyways, so back to Katie's package. So they also talk about her recording Shannon and having her like meltdown. And in my head, I was like, dang, Katie was working this season. And she only worked half a season. Like that was a lot. Some of this stuff happened in between the season. But still, I was like, okay, Katie, I see. So Andy asked how, how does it feel with the fan response that she's gotten, especially after the lie detector episode? And and Katie says that she was shocked, but pleasantly surprised that, a lot of people really showed support for her. And it's like, duh, I don't understand that why people aren't understanding that for the most part, whenever someone is getting dogpiled on or ganged up on, we're usually going to side with that person. I don't think there's anyone like, oh, Katie's perfectly clean. She didn't do anything. She's an angel sent by God. She did absolutely nothing. I don't think there's anyone that believes that. I think there are many things that like don't make sense. And I think there is a lot of smoke in her direction for sure. Her hands are not completely clean, but the way they treat her and the way the goalpost always keeps moving, as Candace Dillard Bassett said in Potomac, it's astounding. These women are such hypocrites. And as Katie does one thing, it's the end of the world, but you can have Tamra screaming in their face, FUs, fingers in the face. You can have everything else going on. Tamra exposing alcoholism in your family. Alexis threatening videos to release those. You can have all of that, but then Shannon can fix her lips and say, Katie, you're worse than Alexis Bellino. What? And all of that, and they just want to like cut her off. Absolutely not. So I don't know why it's so hard for these housewives, not just of OC, but across the board, because we're currently dealing with a gang up situation in Potomac where it's just so much mean girl behavior to Stacey. Yeah, people are going to rally for Stacey. She did nothing wrong, right? Anyway, let's keep going with this. So then Andy asked if Katie and Shannon are in a better place because he noticed that Shannon had refollowed Katie. And Katie said, Shannon never stopped following me, but they haven't spoken. And here goes Emily again. Girl, we understand that you try to use like these reunions as your Hail Mary every season. But like, give it up. Okay? No one's talking to you. But here goes Emily again, inserting herself. And she's like, we all know that you recorded Shannon, but you said you only sent the recording to Matt, but Alexa said that she heard it as well. And And then Tamra, this is the first time in a while that I'm appreciating Tamra because she is, you know, having Katie's back to an extent. Then Tamra points it at Shannon. It was like, well, Shannon recorded someone. Like, what's the difference? Y'all do the same freaking things. And so she was like, well, Shannon recorded someone. And then Shannon, tries to like brush past it. And Tamara was like, yeah, it was Vicky. She recorded Vicky. And then Shannon says, her and Vicky were or Vicky was in a heated discussion with her boyfriend at the time, and Shannon was there. So Shannon recorded it to just make sure everyone was safe. And, fine. Could that have happened? Sure. Could that be the reason? Fine. But you have recorded someone. You recorded it. You recorded someone, and had things popped off, you would have had to show that recording. So, like, don't, you're just a hypocrite. So a fan question asked Emily if she went into defense mode over her family when Katie talked to the nanny. And Emily says, of course, it's such an invasion of privacy. I can't believe she did this. Like, oh my God, it's so much. And then Katie brings up what Emily did to her in the last reunion, where you sat up here and brought up something from 12 years ago saying, oh, I heard you didn't have physical custody of your kids. I heard you didn't have legal custody of your kids. And that had nothing to do with her storyline. Katie did not have the storyline saying, I've been mom of the year for as long as I've been a mom, and that wasn't her storyline. So maybe if there was a reason to like negate something that maybe she had said recently in that season, maybe. But at the end of the day, it was dealing with her kids. It was a legal matter. It was something that happened prior to her being on the show, and you felt the need to dig that up and throw that out there as if you were doing something iconic, and you weren't. It was disgusting. And you felt that you could do that, but she can't talk to a nanny. Get a freaking life, Emily. Be so for real right now. Be so for real. Pulling up probably the most painful thing that she's ever had to go through, because she had to escape a toxic marriage and literally build her life from scratch. And as a mother, you should understand that's probably the hardest thing that she had to do, is just to like sign over her rights. And you want to throw that in her face on a national platform? Girl, go to hell. Okay? For real. So Katie brings that up to Emily, like, girl, be so for real right now. Like, this is what you did to me, and you want to cry about me talking to a nanny. And then she's like, well, let me differentiate. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. So then Emily says, I said what I said. It wasn't about, your children. It was more about Katie. And then Katie presses even further, because that answer didn't really make sense. And then Katie presses further and was just like, well, what was the point of bringing that up? And why do I need to defend myself to you from 12 years ago? And as she's saying this, I was like, get her, Katie, get her. Like, good job. And then even Tamra was looking at Katie kind of pleased, like, I taught her well. And so, again, I think that was like a nice, quiet way to support Katie. I did appreciate that. And then the rest of this raggedy cast was, trying to defend Emily. It was really Gina and Jen specifically, but they were just trying to say, well, no, she didn't mean to like hurt your kids, and no, she didn't plan it, and no, like, girl, shut up. And then Emily says, and then Emily knew she wasn't going to win that argument. So then she pivots back to saying, Katie, I just feel like you use bloggers and podcasters to fight your battles. And, I just want you to say things to my face. And so then Katie apologizes again to Emily. And I would have told her to go to hell. I really would have. I mean, unless I received an apology, then I can apologize. But like, Emily, be so for real right now. That was so disgusting. So then Andy asked Jen, why did she call Katie a con artist? And of course, Jen doesn't remember. Shocker. And then after Gina confirms, like, no, I really remember you saying it in this conversation, and here's the context. Then Jen, she gets a memory boost. And she says, I just get weird feelings when Katie tells these stories, and basically saying like her intuition is telling her something's off with Katie in these stories. Fine. Then Andy brings up an interview that Katie did. And in that interview, Katie said that she feels like that there was one person who didn't want to film with her and then set her up with the lie detector and got the other people on board to not film with her as well. And Katie says, yeah, that one person who I think was doing that was Emily. And Emily says that, oh, she doesn't have that power. And I'm like, girl, we know, like, you're whack. You're bottom of the food chain of this cast. But anyway, she says she doesn't have that power. And Emily claims that Katie said on camera that she would take a lie detector test. And that's where the idea came from, and it was more production driving that and not Emily. It was not her idea, so she says. And she says, her only input to that party was to include the other women in writing questions to each other to ask for the lie detector test. And Andy says that production found the lie detector people because there's only a few of them who would go on TV. Yeah, we know we only see the same guy ever. And then Katie mentions that Emily and Gina were saying, we got her, there's a plan, basically alluding like, no, this is why I thought it was a setup. And Gina says, no, it was really just saying that we got her in terms of it, basically saying that the lie detector is going to expose Katie. That was the thought behind we got her, there's a plan, and there wasn't anything else outside of that. So obviously they're going to deny a setup. They're going to deny, sounds like production is going to, take the blame for that party because it had a lot of negative feedback. And I don't know the last time, if ever, production like fell on their sword like that. Comment below if there was something where that ever happens, but I feel like that's breaking the fourth wall, no? So I feel like I just don't remember ever production saying like, it was us, like we set up this whole party and we found the people and this was our idea. I don't know. That's weird to me. That's really weird to me. So I don't care enough to like litigate it, but it sounds weird to me. Then there was a fan that asked Katie, why doesn't she say what she says in confessionals to people's faces? And Katie owns it and says, yeah, that's something I should do. And this is like another time I'm agreeing with Tamra, but then Tamra says, yeah, there's a lot of people should say what they want to say to people's faces. Emily was like, oh, well, what does that mean? Like clearly a hit dog hollering or just a basic person trying to insert themselves in the reunion. Either way. And Tamra was like, well, why do you think I'm talking about you? Like, no one said your name, ho. But anyway, Tamra was talking about her, and she says, you said a lot of things in your group scenes with the other women and in your confessional that you have not told me to my face. And Shannon jumps in saying that Tamra does the same thing, and Tamra shuts her down. She was like, be quiet. Tamra told Shannon, just sit on the end and be quiet. That was a good one because, like I said, this show is Shannon's world, and I know Shannon was butthurt that she was on the end of the couch. So, and I think Tamra knows that, so she knew to like turn that knife a little bit. So Emily asked for an example as to like, when do I talk about you behind your back that I don't say to your face? And Tamra says that Emily, one thing that Emily said was that Tamra doesn't have a lot of friends or a lot of girlfriends, and she's not a girl's girl, and Emily apologizes. Tamra came ready for this reunion. She was definitely a veteran who showed up to work. I will say that. So Andy brings up Kiki Monique telling Gina about the racist insinuations. And Gina says, that's horrifying for her, but she does apologize if she triggered something in Katie. And Katie accepts it and explains that she was bonding with Kiki about being a woman of color in a predominantly white space. And first of all, I think Gina handled that really well. Kind of like she defended herself a little bit, like that's not where I was coming from. That's not what I was thinking. Here's why I said what I said. But then she immediately was kind of like, but if that was like hurtful to you based off of an experience that I'm not familiar with, I am so sorry. Like, that was amazing, Gina. I really appreciated her, how she said that. And then secondly, like, Kiki Monique, you're a bitch for that. You're a bitch for that, because why? I can't stand when you think you have a safe space with someone and then they go and like turn it or flip it or publicize it. And I don't think I will ever support Kiki Monique on anything that she does. The fact that Katie was in what she thought a safe space with you and was able to try to connect with you on something, and then you want to go and like turn and publicize it and try to like make it a thing and make it a storyline. It's so sad, and it's really pathetic, honestly. Um, yeah, I think Kiki like handled that whole situation terribly, and I just hope I never hear that name again for on these franchises. So Andy asked, does anyone else want to apologize to Katie? And it's crickets. And I'm like, he's trying to help y'all because the public perception for most of y'all is in the toilet, from based off the platforms that I have seen. I'm sure there are some platforms that maybe like the cast, but the platforms that I engage with are Team Katie if they had to choose, and everyone else sucks. So Andy was trying to throw them a bone, like, hey, you guys want to like make amends, try to like gain some favor with the audience. Crickets. And then eventually Shannon says that she wasn't happy that she called Katie evil earlier in the season. So fine. So then we see Gretchen backstage, and she's getting ready, and she says she's excited to clear everything up. And Andy gets a message as they are kind of like waiting to film again. They're kind of on a break on stage. Andy gets a message from Alexis, and it's a seating chart. And then she says, oh, I'm so sorry, it was meant for someone else. And then they do a package on the kids. So then they start filming again, and they do a package on the kids, but it's really just a tee up to Emily's storyline. I'm not spending too much on that. I think it was really gross of her to kind of like have her son's like sickness as a storyline. But basically, she had some moms reach out and point her in a direction of, hey, have you considered this? And so she looked into it and is starting to get some additional treatments for him. She did say that he's thriving and doing much better. They've made some changes, so great. They briefly checked in with Jen, and her son had graduated from the Marines, and at the ceremony he passed out again. This is the same one that passed out getting the tattoo. And I'm like, y'all might want to get that checked out. I'm surprised he was able to graduate when there's kind of like a clear documentation of this condition, but whatever. Tamra recently talked to her daughter Sydney, who doesn't talk to her, and I was like, doesn't Sydney not want to be a part of this show? Didn't Sydney stop talking to you the last time that you told people we talked? I don't understand what Tamara is not understanding. I think she should have just kept that private. I think she's so thirsty because everyone throws it in her face, like, no wonder your daughter doesn't talk to you. I think she's so thirsty to prove, like, no, we do talk. We're good. We're moving in the right direction. Like, I am a good mom. And instead of just abiding by her daughter's wishes, unless they changed, unless her daughter said, I no longer care to be talked about. If I'm talked about, go ahead and tell everyone that we're cool, mom, fine. But I don't know. I feel like we haven't gotten that update as an audience. And so I think Tamara should have respected her daughter's privacy. And when that was brought up, she should have just said, I'm going to respect her privacy, but I feel like I'm in a good space right now, or something like that. But she gave this whole story of, I saw her and we hugged and we talked 30 minutes and then I cried, and it was like this whole big thing. And I'm like, I just hope things stay that way and Tamara doesn't do something stupid that like pushes her away again. Shannon, her daughter who's living abroad wants to continue living abroad, and that sounds amazing. So good for her. So then a fan question asked Emily about her relationship. She says it's solid, and she just gets her emotional support from her girlfriends. And I feel like that's sad. I feel like It's, I think to an extent, there are just some things that men are just not wired for the most part. Obviously, you have some men that are more, you know, attuned with their emotions and things like that. But for the most part, men are just wired very differently, and it's hard to relate like that. So I do understand, calling your best girlfriend or whoever to kind of get that fill, but your husband should also just be your husband. It should be your other half, and should be your life partner, and should be your, you know, it's sad that she was kind of like, oh, I'm not getting what I need from him, so I just get it from my girlfriends. I'm like, oh, I get it to an extent, but I don't know. I was like, oh, that seemed like a red flag to me. So then Gretchen joins, and Tamra says that that her outfit and her look is giving John Bonet. I was like, oh Lord. I was like, not John Bonet. Andy asked what Gretchen's been working on, and Gretchen said that she does digital marketing. And then she says, I'm an influencer, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure she is just an influencer, and she's like calling it, I'm in digital marketing. Like, I don't think she's like actually doing anything else besides use my link below. Like, Gretchen is so full of it. You're basically telling people, use my code. Here's my link. Here's my, you know, here's my OOTD, and you're calling it digital marketing. Okay, we can call it that. Andy asked what Slade has been doing for work, and she says he's a consultant. She doesn't say what kind. And she says that he sits on the board of the Liberace Foundation. Okay, girl. So then there is a Tamra versus Gretchen package, and a fan asked if Gretchen had any reservations about coming back on the show. Was she worried about filming with Tamra? And Gretchen says yes, but she didn't plan to come for Tamra. And I'm like, well, that's what you did you made your identity on the show, like going up against Tamra, but okay. I think another fan question asked Tamra, was it a dig to bring Joe around? And Tamra says no. I'm actually friends with her, and I'm not thinking about Gretchen in so many words. And Gretchen is asked, how can she blame Tamra for Slade not having a job for nearly 2 decades? That was like the question of the night. And Gretchen says, I'm sorry if it came across that way. And Tamra's like, it didn't come across that way. That's what you said. Like, I can't stand these like semantics and like, not even semantics. Like, you said that, and now you want to act like you didn't say that because you realize how dumb you looked. But here goes Gretchen. I'm sorry if it came across that way, but what I meant to say is that, saying these defamatory things can like hurt him, can affect his life. And I'm like, what? Like, shut up. And Tamara says, well, like him getting arrested, like did that happen to hurt him getting a job? And Gretchen says no. I'm like, girl, okay. In the words of Phaedra, get away from me with this. So then a fan asked how Slade contributes to the household, and Gretchen says, well, what wasn't shown was that when I go to the store, I pay for it, but when he goes to the store, he pays for the groceries out of his account. And notice how she said he pays for it out of his account. Do you put money in his account, Gretchen? I'm pretty sure from your digital marketing, you probably give him a nice little allowance, so when he's not with you, he can swipe the card and feel like a big boy. But I don't think he actually has a job that is generating income where he is paying for groceries and utilities and paying for the mortgage. I don't believe that. I believe you set him up with a nice little account similar to what you do with a teenager, and you were funneling money in there, and he's able to use his account when when you let him off his leash to go get some groceries or take your daughter out to get some ice cream or something. Anyway, Heather just clarifies, I wasn't trying to pry or get in your business. That conversation just came up because we were talking about marriage, and you had said in the past you didn't want to marry him because you didn't want to take on his debt. And, that is really the reason why we thought your engagement was fake to begin with all those years ago. And Tamra asked Gretchen, don't you want to be married in God's eyes? I said, get her again, Tamra. get her again, because all of a sudden she came back as Jesus Barbie, and you're like a whole baby mama. Like let's keep that all the way for real. You had a child out of wedlock and you want to like preach the word, and you're spewing hate, and you're having kids out of wedlock, and you're a freaking fraud, okay? None of us are perfect, but the ones that are the who want to act the holiest and look down on others and judge other people for who they are and what they believe, and who they choose to love, are the main ones who need to clean up their own yard. Okay. Anyway, so I said, get her again, Tamra. And then she's like, oh no, we had a ceremony. We are married in God's eyes. But yeah, you had it after you had the child out of wedlock, because you said Skylar was there. So cool. And I'm not judging people that do that, but I'm also not like going around preaching that like I'm so holy and, whatever. And as much as I love God, I try to love people the way God loves all of us, and not, you know, ugh, y'all know what I'm trying to say, but not do what Gretchen's doing pretty much. So then Andy points out that, Gretchen seems more religious. And Gretchen said she's always been like that. She grew up in a very religious household, went to religious schools, and, fine. So then Andy asked if Gretchen was looking for liquid courage in the fireball when she brought up Tamra, the rumor about Tamra. And she says that she didn't have any intention on bringing that up. And Andy says, the musician who has been named vehemently denies these rumors. And Heather says, it wasn't premeditated. And Tamra says, bull-ish. And Shannon tries to pipe up, and Tamra shuts her down again. And she's like, I'm not talking to you. And let me finish, girl. It was very Mary from SLC coded. Like, you can go, little girl. Like, it was funny. So then Tamra says that Gretchen tried to bring up this musician rumor years ago, but they move on because Gretchen has selective amnesia. And then Andy asked Emily, why did you tell Tamra what Gretchen said when Gretchen told you not to? And Emily said, well, I was irritated because they had literally just made up, and called a truce. Gretchen apologizes for bringing it up, but points out that it wasn't premeditated, and it was already out in the public. And Tamra brings up things that are out in public all the time. And there's a question about, why does Tamra feel like she can bring up old dirt about other people, but then she gets mad when it's done about her? These questions seemed very one-sided. I don't know. I hope we see more. I don't know. These questions seem really one-sided, and it seems like there needs to be as much smoke as Tamra's getting. Gretchen needs to also get. Emily also needs to also get. I'm right now. It seemed a lot of things were kind of pointed at Tamra. Some of it was pointed at Katie. But there's a lot of blame that can go around in this group. So I really want to see that in parts 2 and 3. But anyway, so that question was asking Tamra, like, why do you get to do these things, but you get mad when it's done to you? And as an example, they say, you just did it to Shannon. You said that she was, recording Vicky, and like, why did you bring that up? And then again, Shannon feels the need to say, I only recorded her to make sure everything was safe. And Tamra said, well, if your intent was to keep everyone safe, why did you call me afterwards and say, I don't know why anyone would be with Vicky. I don't know why, just talking all this mess about Vicky. And they were like, no, see, you did it again. You're saying more again. And I'm like, that's actually a weak example. It's a weak example because Tamra only brought it up to showcase your hypocrisy. Like, in order to show your hypocrisy, she has to pull something that you did, aka an action that you completed in the past. She has to bring something up from the past to demonstrate you're mad at her for doing this, but you have done this, this, and this. She's allowed to do that. Why am I defending Tamra Judge? So it was that I felt like that was a really weak example of like, oh, you're proving her point. No, she's allowed to defend herself, and along the way, you're allowed to point out lies. If Shannon said, oh, I I only did it for this altruistic reason and I just wanted to be Mother Mary and make sure everyone was safe, Tamara's allowed to say, well, you called me afterward and talked complete dog on Vicky. She's allowed to say that to point out that you're not who you're purporting yourself to be. So I felt like that was a really weak example. I'm actually Team Tamara on that. Ugh, crazy. So Tamara and Gretchen go back and forth some more. It was just more of the same. I don't even care. It was Tamara, why'd you bring up alleged affair photos of Gretchen and like I don't care. I don't care. They go back and forth. Um and then before they really get into it, Shannon tries to jump in again, and Tamara shuts her down again. And Shannon, she like, oh my gosh, honestly, and Tamara like starts mocking her glitching, so that was hilarious. And then at the end, Tamara just screams at Gretchen like, it's been so long of you coming after me and my husband and my family. I don't talk about you. And that was the end. I'm tired. I don't care. Gretchen, I never want to see you again on my screen. Tamara, I'm over you as well, even though I agreed with a lot of how you handle things this reunion. You handle things like a vet for the most part. I appreciate the support on Katie, but that does not erase how you acted last season and most of your time on the show. I'm ready for you to leave too. But I want to hear from you guys. What was your favorite part of the reunion? Do you feel like the questions were balanced? How'd you feel about the reunion seating chart? How'd you feel about the fashions? And what are you hoping to get accomplished or dig into for parts 2 and 3? Let me know below. I am very interested to hear what you have to say. Please tune in and subscribe if you want more Housewives commentary. I would love to have you here with me. And if you like this video and you made it this far, give it a thumbs up. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.